with his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning. It's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
And it lists a series of rights that crime victims have. You know what number 1 is on the Crime Victims Bill of Rights in Wisconsin? The right of victims to be treated fairly and with dignity and with respect by public officials, employees, and agencies. And Judge Schroeder just did the exact opposite.
Let's take a look at what the actual law says about this. Here we have 950.04, Basic Bill of Rights for Victims and Witnesses. Gee, it sounds like victims and witnesses are not being treated quite the same. And in fact, if you look at 1V here, it talks all about the rights of victims. And it's pretty clear when you read this that they are not confusing victims and witnesses. But let's go ahead and further on down. What's down here? In 2W, the rights of witnesses. Witnesses of crimes have the following rights. So they have separated victims from witnesses. Let's go to the top. Victim means any of the following: a person against whom a crime has been committed. So it's pretty clear that they do not consider victims and witnesses the same thing. But let's go back to the top. Victim, a person against whom a crime has been committed, and the accused is claiming self-defense. Is it not obvious to everybody that to call Gage Grosskreutz and Anthony Huber and Jojo Rosenbaum victims is to imply that Kyle Rittenhouse has committed a crime? Is it not clear? And of course it's clear, because that's why, again, the prosecution wants to call these people victims. So, the big problem with this lawyer's argument is, yes, victims have certain rights in Wisconsin courts, do not have the rights of victims because nobody has ascertained at this point whether they are really victims of a crime. The Bill of Rights for Victims only applies to victims. Judge Bruce Schroeder is saying they have not been called victims by the jury yet. Therefore, they're not afforded these basic Bill of Rights. They're not victims, they're witnesses. So a person like Gage Grosskreutz would not be considered a victim. He's a witness. In fact, he was called onto the stand. What about those that died, like Anthony Huber and Jojo Rosenbaum? What rights do they have when they're dead? They are deceased. Why would you go through so much effort to preserve their rights when they're no longer with us? And so it's very specific here that if you call somebody a victim, you are directly, explicitly implying that that person has had a crime committed against them, and therefore calling him a victim prejudices the jury against the accused. Now, let's suppose that the idiot lawyer is correct. Let's suppose that the term victim should apply to people like Gage Grosskreutz, for example. It still wouldn't matter, because all that Judge Schroeder would have to do is argue that we're balancing the rights of the accused to not be prejudiced versus the right of Gage Grosskreutz to what? Not feel insulted? When you balance those rights, the rights of the accused are always going to win out. Judge Schroeder's primary job is to preserve the rights of the accused. And the Court of Appeals is not going to allow people to be called victims just to preserve their rights to be called a victim if it prejudices the jury. And in fact, and if you remember, Judge Bruce Schroeder told Binger and Mobley that he would not allow people like Gage Grosskreutz and Anthony Huber and Jojo Rosenbaum be called victims. He said the proper term is witnesses and decedents, which aligns perfectly with Wisconsin statute. with this Wisconsin statute. And by the way, you'll notice that the right to be called a victim isn't mentioned here. He's taken a vague abstraction, treated with fairness, dignity, and respect, and trying to imply that it refers to a specific act by a judge. It's not going to hold up in court. You're not going to be able to claim that people like Gage Grosskreutz deserve to be called victims on account of 950.04. It's clearly not specific enough.
He arguably violated the first right of crime victims.
But you have to first make the claim that they're victims of a crime, and you haven't done so. Not until the jury says so. Judge Bruce Schroeder is on solid ground here. And he knows he's on solid ground. He's been sitting as a judge in Wisconsin longer than anybody. I would think he knows the rules when it comes to calling people victims.
Let's hope that he conducts the trial more fairly than he resolved the pretrial issues and rulings.
Okay, this is another video of his, and I just want to, you can go and watch the video, but I just want to say he started out saying that we have to accept the jury non-guilty finding.
Well, you don't have to do anything.
And he said that, and he talked about how many times when he lost a case as prosecutor, he had to go out courthouse steps and say that, the government accepts the jury verdict. Well, I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, no kidding. Gee, who would have guessed?
And here's the thing, and I don't know, but to me, it almost seems like in this case, they should have went to an appeals court, and I think he's going to talk about that when I play the tape again. This is something where you should be able to go to an appeals court and either get a new trial or get the appeals court to overturn the trial based on the judicial, misconduct.
Holy crap. Are you trying to tell me that you think that the prosecution can appeal a not guilty verdict? Really? I have news for you, Buster. It doesn't work like that. Oh, sure, if you can prove that the defendant did something horrific like bribe jurors or bribe a judge, you might be able to get away with that. But those cases are extraordinarily rare. I imagine there may be no more than 4 or 5 cases where that actually happened in this country's history. I've never heard of it. The notion that the prosecution is going to be able to appeal the innocence verdict of the accused is ludicrous. Ludicrous. He calls Kyle's supporters morons, idiots. You can't get anything through to them people. And yet he believes this crap.
This is not the OJ trial where, people are talking, and this is the thing, the same people, like the guy that probably defended this guy, I bet you they're the same ones that talk about how horrible the OJ decision was. And I think it's horrible that OJ got away with murdering his wife. But see, in that case, it really looked like one of the reasons why he was found not guilty was because they found that the police were mishandling the evidence. These police, if you watch those movies and read those books about the old legal system in LA, Black Dahlia and some of that, where you had these cops that were basically just outside the law, doing things they shouldn't. And they did it for a while and it finally got out of hand. These cops were basically trying to put their finger on the scale and make sure OJ got convicted.
Are you kidding me? Are you insane? You're saying that the prosecution should be able to appeal the not guilty verdict because their own police force, remember, the police are on the same side as the prosecution. They both belong to the executive branch of government. So the prosecution's own police force bungled the investigation, and therefore they get to appeal a not guilty verdict. Oh my God. Incredible. What can you say? I can't even fathom somebody believing this.
And that's one of the, well, this is a case where the judge is actually in there, and it really appears like he is doing everything he can to get this guy off. And then you've got, like, there was one guy, I can't remember if he ate somebody, but he was a hardened criminal, and the cops took him to fucking Burger King, you know, after they arrested him, before they took him to jail.
That's an absolute total lie. And I'm getting tired of people like you making those claims. Did not happen. All right? You sit there and you complain about Kyle's supporters lying. You just lied. They did not take him to Burger King. Oh my God, I'm sick and tired of hearing this crap. They were holding him for questioning. The law says they have to feed him. They don't have a kitchen where they are. And so one of the detectives drove over to Burger King and brought back a hamburger. And people like you really think that they took a man who was a mass murderer to a burger joint. What the hell are you thinking? Of course it didn't happen. And if you had any critical thinking skills, you would realize that there's a really good reason why they're playing nice with him. It's not because he's white. It's because he has just committed a mass shooting and they want to know if others are involved in it. Maybe he's a part of a cell, a terrorist cell. He's got conspirators. They need him to talk, and therefore they're going to play nicey-nicey with him. This notion that they should have taken him out and beat the hell out of him, it's crazy. The kid's going to probably get executed in their mind. There's no reason for them to play executioner here. They need to find out, are others involved? And they're not going to be able to do that by being really mean. And so, yeah, they went and got a Burger King sandwich. And hey, and when did Burger King become like Ruth's Chris? I've said it before, I'll say it again. Giving that man Burger King, well, that's just police brutality. But to hear them tell it, they brought him back filet mignon or that new tomahawk steak or whatever. It was a burger. Come on. Who cares? But most importantly, you got it wrong. And don't you even think for a moment that I'm wrong, because I'm not. You can do a Google search. You can look up the truth and you will find out that you screwed up here. You don't have the facts. And the reason why you don't have the facts is because you read too many headlines.
Some of the terrorists that attacked the Capitol, instead of being locked up, instead of being under house arrest, one of them got to go to Mexico. We clearly have two completely different judicial systems, depending on whether you're poor and you're gonna. A lot of people are gonna say black and white, and there's some truth to that.
Another thing I'm sick and tired of is people not understanding the purpose of bail. Bail is not to punish people. It's just designed to make sure that they show up for their next hearing and they don't hurt anybody while they're out. So allowing somebody to go to Mexico, who cares as long as they come back for their trial? You don't punish people as part of bail. That's not its purpose. Sure, if the person is a real flight risk, maybe they're up for murder, you wouldn't let them go to Mexico because they might not come back. The purpose of bail is not to deny somebody a vacation. At that point, you're just punishing them, even though they have not been tried yet. Again, Civics 101, first year of law school, understand the purpose of bail. But he can't because he's an anti-Kyle and stupid.
But a lot of it's got to do with you're poor. If you're poor versus if you're rich.
Bail conditions vary all over the country from judge to judge.
And I don't know, I'm going to let the tape go. I just want to let him go. But yeah, there's just clearly something going on here with this judge.
What I mean by that, I want to talk about a couple of the things about this trial that really bothered me. In particular, the judge. The judge set the tone early on by saying to the prosecutors, you may not call the gunshot victims, the people who were shot, two of whom were killed by Kyle Rittenhouse. You may not call them victims because that's a loaded term. And then he turned to the defense attorneys and said, but you may call them rioters and looters and arsonists.
And it's all perfectly understandable. Again, Randall Volar is not a victim, not until the jury says so. And the witnesses that are going to be allowed to be may be called arsonists, looters, and rioters are not the accused. They do not get the same protections, nor should they.
You may use those conclusory, derogatory slurs to refer to the human beings who were shot and killed. But government, prosecutor, you may not use the loaded term victim, even though they were clearly gunshot wound victims.
Which implies that they were victims of a crime, which implies that the accused is guilty, which violates our presumption of innocence upon which our entire justice system is founded. And I will say this, why is it so important to call Gage Grosskreutz and Anthony Huber and Jojo Rosenbaum victims? Why is that so important to you? There can only be one reason, because it prejudices the jury. He's a prosecutor. That's his job.
That set the tone early on, and it treated the parties unfairly.
Again, there is no reason whatsoever to treat the prosecution and the defense fairly. I've given you plenty of examples where the defense is given certain powers and privileges and protections that the prosecution isn't. As a prosecutor, you would think he would know this.
It gave Kyle Rittenhouse's defense team an advantage.
So does the presumption of innocence. So does the requirement that you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. According to him, people should be found guilty if at least a majority of the jury is willing to convict. Not all 12, a majority. It's got to be even, right? But it's not. We don't do it that way. It has to require all 12, which gives the defense an advantage. Cry me a river.
That's just one of the many things that concerned me deeply about the way this Judge Schroeder, handled the trial. But rather than go on for a couple of hours critiquing so much of what Judge Schroeder did.
Oh, I would love to see that. He has another video out there. I'm going to have to make that a central focus of my next local lawyer video, because this dude's loco.
Let me talk about another aspect of the trial. It is perhaps an understatement to say that different people viewed this case, viewed the evidence through very different lenses. Here's what I wrote about that.
Oh, this ought to be good.
Some people hail Rittenhouse as a vigilante hero of sorts, a free agent crime fighter determined to protect property and promote order in a city taken over by lawless rioters.
But that's about the most least profound statement I've heard about this trial. Yeah, we know. Everybody knows that. So what?
While others viewed Rittenhouse as a young racist with an itchy trigger finger who opened fire without cause on people who were protesting police abuse.
Again, we all know that. Tell us something that is profound.
This latter view paints the shooting victims as heroes who were chasing down and trying to disarm an active shooter after Rittenhouse fired his assault-style rifle at the first victim.
I can't believe you wasted our time reading this crap. Seriously, if you're going to take the time to write, put something down that's profound. Oh my God, man, this is boring. We all know this. We have been hashing this for the last 2 years.
And I want to stop right there, and I'm going to preview what's coming up. But that right there, and the guy that was commenting today, I am pretty sure he is with the first group, where they just, They're in that ammo-sexual collection of people that love guns. And
Oh my God, he's one of those who loves guns. Oh my God, he can't be right.
I don't know. But
by the way, that's called the ad hominem. He's one of those gun lovers. Yeah, so what? Doesn't make him wrong.
they view him as some kind of a hero. And in reality, what it was, this is a guy that left his state, went to another state, probably because he thought after he shot these people, they wouldn't be able to come and get him or find him or whatever.
What? Let me see if I got this right. He was in Illinois. He went to Wisconsin. I got to play this again. This makes no sense.
A guy that left his state, went to another state.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably because he thought after he shot these people, they wouldn't be able to come and get him or find him or whatever.
Oh, I see what he's saying. Kyle drove to Wisconsin specifically because he didn't think that the people would be able to follow him back to Illinois. Brilliant. Oh my God. Oh, good Lord. You have got to be kidding me. Never mind the fact that we know that Kyle Rittenhouse was already in Wisconsin when the riots broke out. He didn't travel to Illinois to get into trouble because he was already in Wisconsin. But according to him, Kyle went to another state because he didn't feel that they would be able to follow him back after he shot people. Are you kidding me? Are you seriously kidding me?
And, but he went to that other state, strapped on a gun, went somewhere where he had no right to use that gun. I mean, he wasn't protecting his property.
Okay, show me the law that says that he had no right to be there. Show me the law, damn it. I'm sick of this. You make a claim that he had no right to be there with that gun. You show me the law that says he cannot. This is a nation of laws. It's not about your feelings. We know you think he shouldn't have been there, but nobody cares about that. It's what the law says. And there was no law against him being there that night.
Even stand your ground laws, which I think have some issues, they didn't apply here. He wasn't even in his home state.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me that stand your ground only applies if you're in your own home state? That's total horse manure. It violates the Constitution. The Constitution actually states that a person is afforded the same rights as anybody else in a state. You don't get special rights just because you're a resident of that state.
His property, even stand your ground laws, which I think have some issues, they didn't apply here.
But of course, stand your ground rules didn't apply here because Kyle didn't stand his ground. He ran. I cannot understand how this person even watched any of the videos. Stand your ground? Really?
He wasn't even in his home state. And he went out there, and after he shot the first guy, the crowd understandably wanted to put him down. They wanted to take away his gun. They wanted to hold him for the police. And he shot them.
This falls under the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It doesn't matter whether they felt they were doing the right thing. Good intentions doesn't allow you to violate somebody's rights. Furthermore, the people that attacked Kyle didn't actually see Kyle do anything. We know Anthony Huber and Gage Grosskreutz did not see the shooting. They chased after Kyle even though they had no firsthand knowledge that he had done anything.
That right there, that's the fact. The reality of now the defense lawyers can spin whatever they want, but I'm sorry, if you don't understand that, then you've got a problem with the reality, and it doesn't have anything to do with me. But
no, I'm sorry, you don't understand self-defense. I've said it before. I even have a dumb video out on this. A video of my dumb argument series, okay? Self-defense doesn't care about the motives of the attacker. Doesn't matter. All that matters is, did you fear for your life or serious bodily injury? And there are other stipulations about having other means of escape and such. it's quite possible for both people in a fight to claim self-defense legitimately. So while these people may have a self-defense argument, it doesn't matter. It does not negate Kyle Rittenhouse self-defense argument. And don't argue with me on this. You're wrong if you do.
That is effectively what happened. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let him speak a little bit more. But that right there was one of the biggest things that I think you could make. There's some other good things you could talk about.
So yes, different people, different factions viewed this case through very different lenses. But in my opinion, at the bottom of it all, here's why Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted by the jury. It's because of the law of self-defense.
Oh, that pesky law of self-defense. Damn it. If only we could get rid of it.
The law of self-defense says that once there's any evidence introduced at trial that the defendant might have acted in self-defense, then it is the prosecution's burden to disprove self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt.
Oh, damn it. If only we could convict people without that pesky beyond reasonable doubt standard. He's a prosecutor. He doesn't want anybody to have that standard. He's complaining that he has to prove the defendant guilty of the crime before he's sent away for the rest of his life. Yes, that's what he's complaining about.
And when I saw Kyle Rittenhouse testify that he believed he was at risk of death or serious bodily injury when he was being pursued, attacked, assaulted by the protesters, by the victims.
By the victims,
And he believed he needed to use force, including deadly force, to repel the attack. I knew it was going to be very difficult for the prosecution to carry its burden of disproving self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt.
Oh, damn it. It's so unfair. It shouldn't be beyond reasonable doubt. It should be just most likely. And the idea somehow that you have to have all 12 people to convict, that's so unfair. It should only be a majority. Even Steven, right? Again, he's a prosecutor. He doesn't give a damn about the accused's rights.
Because here's how that works. Ordinarily, defense attorneys will argue to a jury, ladies and gentlemen, you might think my client is probably guilty. That means you must vote not guilty, because probably doesn't cut it. Probably is not a conclusion beyond a reasonable doubt.
I left that in there because I want to be fair on this. I want to show everything, and he is explaining. And I got to be honest with you, I don't necessarily think that that is a bad thing. And
he doesn't necessarily think that the burden of proof being on the prosecution is such a bad thing. Hey, how would you like people like this running your government? You remember how Stalin would have people taken down into the cellar and shot? How did those people get away with that crap? It's because of people like this.
But that's a fair thing. But I seriously think if the judge would not have gotten involved, I'm not sure. But again, this is something that can come up, and I think it should stay in there. I think he's going to make some, and I'm not going to go into that. But I don't have a problem with that.
You said before that you don't necessarily think you had a problem, and now you're changing it to, I don't have a problem with it. Okay. It sounds like you don't have any real conviction.
Where, hey, if you get self-defense entered, I don't have a problem with the prosecution having to get over that burden. But I think when you have a judge doing just like what he brought up, where he's letting the defense call these people criminals and scumbags and all that, but yet you can't refer to his actual victims as victims.
By the way, did any of this have any effect on the jury at all? I don't recall these issues even coming up during the trial. Who out there thinks that if Gage Grosskreutz and them were to be allowed to be called victims by the prosecution, that would have turned the tide and would have found all 12 jurors agreeing to convict? Who out there thinks that would have happened? Yet, He's making a claim here that, well, if only the judge would have allowed the prosecution to call them victims, that would have made the difference. Okay.
That set the stage, and that made it probably impossible for the prosecution. And here's the thing, I would feel a lot better about this if the judge had acted properly and they'd have still found him like, hey, that happens. But when you've got the misconduct by the judge, and I'm going to see if I can get some more info on